There's a specific image most people have when they picture a millionaire. A sports car, designer clothes, a watch that costs more than most people's cars, a house with a gate and a circular driveway. Here's the uncomfortable truth that's going to undercut almost everything you think you know about wealth. Most actual millionaires look nothing like that, and the ones who do are very often not the ones with real money at all. My name is Colt, and today we're talking about something called stealth wealth, the deliberate practice of looking far less wealthy than you actually are, and why so many genuinely wealthy people choose to live this way on purpose. If you've ever assumed someone was rich because of how they looked, or assumed someone was struggling because they drove an old car, this video is going to challenge a lot of what you think you know. Subscribe and hit that like button, because this might change how you see everyone around you. Let's start with the actual research, because this isn't speculation. Decades of research into millionaire households consistently finds the same surprising pattern. Most people with a net worth over $1 million don't live in the most expensive houses in their neighborhood. They don't drive new luxury cars. They shop at ordinary grocery stores, wear unremarkable clothing, and generally blend in completely with everyone else around them. The flashy lifestyle most people associate with wealth is, more often than not, actually a sign of high income combined with high spending, which is a completely different thing from actual accumulated wealth. This distinction matters enormously, and it's worth sitting with for a second. Income is what flows into your life. Wealth is what you actually keep and grow over time. Someone earning $300,000 a year who spends nearly all of it on a luxury car, a large mortgage, and an expensive lifestyle can have less actual wealth than someone earning $70,000 who lives modestly and invests consistently. The visible signs of wealth that most people use to judge how rich someone is, the car, the clothes, the house, are actually terrible indicators of real financial position, because they almost always represent spending, not accumulation. So why do genuinely wealthy people so often choose to hide it? There are several real reasons, and they're more practical than most people assume. The first reason is protection from social pressure and requests for money. The moment people perceive you as wealthy, the requests start. Family members with sudden needs, friends with business opportunities looking for an investor, acquaintances who suddenly remember you exist when they need a loan. Living visibly below your actual means provides a kind of social camouflage that protects both your money and your relationships, because nobody asks the person driving a 10-year-old Honda for $10,000 to invest in their startup. The second reason is psychological. Spending on visible status symbols creates a specific kind of pressure to maintain that image once it's established. If you buy the expensive car, you're now expected to maintain that lifestyle in every other visible area too. People living stealth wealth lifestyles often report a kind of freedom that comes from never having established an expensive image in the first place. There's nothing to maintain, nothing to keep up, no external expectation pulling at their spending decisions. The third reason is purely mathematical, and it connects directly to something we've covered before on this channel: lifestyle creep and opportunity cost. Every dollar spent on a visible status symbol is a dollar that didn't go into an investment account where it could compound for decades. A $70,000 car depreciates the moment you drive it off the lot and continues losing value every year after that. The same $70,000 invested in a diversified index fund, left alone for 20 years at a reasonable historical return, could grow to several times that amount. People who practice stealth wealth aren't being cheap. They're making a very specific, very deliberate trade between looking wealthy now and actually being wealthy later. Let's talk about what this actually looks like in practice, because stealth wealth isn't about deprivation, it's about where the money goes instead. Stealth wealth households tend to drive reliable, often older vehicles, sometimes paid off years ago, chosen for dependability rather than status. They live in homes that are comfortable but not ostentatious, often in middle-class neighborhoods rather than exclusive enclaves, specifically because the math on an expensive house in an expensive area rarely makes sense relative to its actual utility. They wear well-made but unremarkable clothing, the kind that doesn't announce a brand name from across the room. They eat at home more than they eat out, not because they can't afford restaurants, but because the math of cooking versus eating out, compounded over decades, is staggering once you actually calculate it. What they do spend on, often without restraint, is investing. Maxed out retirement accounts, taxable brokerage accounts that grow quietly for decades, sometimes real estate, but as an investment generating income, not a primary residence chosen to impress visitors. The money that other people spend on visible status, stealth wealth households redirect almost entirely into accumulation, and the compounding effect of that redirection over 20 or 30 years is the actual mechanism behind how they became wealthy in the first place. Here's the part that should genuinely reframe how you look at people around you. The colleague driving the flashy car and wearing the expensive watch is very often not the wealthiest person in the room. They're frequently the person under the most financial pressure, making large payments on depreciating assets, sometimes one paycheck away from real trouble despite the visible signals suggesting otherwise. Meanwhile, the person in the unremarkable car in the parking lot, the one nobody notices, is statistically far more likely to actually have substantial wealth, because they made the opposite trade. They chose invisibility now in exchange for actual financial security later. This doesn't mean every modest-looking person is secretly wealthy, and it doesn't mean every visibly wealthy-looking person is actually broke. But the correlation that most people assume, flashy lifestyle equals actual wealth, is statistically much weaker than almost everyone believes, and understanding that gap is genuinely useful for how you make your own financial decisions. So what should you actually take from this if you're trying to build real wealth rather than just project the appearance of it? The first move is recognizing that visible signals of wealth are largely a social performance, not a reliable indicator of anything financial, including when you're tempted to use your own spending to project a certain image to other people. The car you drive, the watch you wear, these things communicate a message to others, but they don't actually build anything for your future. If you find yourself wanting to spend specifically because of how it will make you look to others, that's worth noticing as a red flag in the decision, separate from whether the purchase has genuine value to you personally. The second move is understanding that real financial freedom often looks completely unremarkable from the outside. If your goal is genuine long-term security rather than short-term social validation, the stealth wealth approach isn't about deprivation. It's about consciously choosing where the reward actually shows up, in a growing investment account that compounds quietly for decades, rather than in a depreciating asset that impresses people you'll likely never see again after this year. The third move, and this one matters the most, is to stop using other people's visible spending as a benchmark for your own financial decisions. The colleague with the new car isn't necessarily ahead of you financially. They might be significantly behind, just dressed differently. Comparing your financial choices to someone else's visible lifestyle is comparing yourself to information you don't actually have, because you can't see their debt, their savings, or their actual net worth from the outside, no matter how confident their lifestyle looks. Here's the deeper point underneath everything we've covered today. Wealth and the appearance of wealth are frequently inversely related, not because looking wealthy is morally wrong, but because the resources required to look wealthy and the resources required to become wealthy are often competing directly against each other for the exact same dollars. Every dollar spent projecting an image is a dollar that didn't go toward building the actual substance behind it. If you're serious about building real, lasting wealth, the path rarely looks impressive from the outside, at least not for a very long time. It looks like an ordinary car, a modest house, unremarkable clothes, and a quietly growing number in an account nobody else can see. That invisibility isn't a sacrifice. For the people who actually build wealth this way, it's the entire strategy. If this changed how you think about the people around you, subscribe because we break down exactly this kind of thing every single week. And if you know someone chasing the appearance of wealth instead of the substance of it, send them this video.